Oh boy, guys, it's time. It's finally time that I get to reviewing Transformers Galaxies number 1 through 4, the Constructicons Rising arc. Since I said I was going to review every issue of this new IDW continuity. So let's get into this. And first, let's talk about what Galaxies is. Basically, the mainline Transformers series was going so slow and poorly that I believe that they felt it necessary to introduce a side series to help introduce more characters and flesh out the universe, which, by the way, the last thing we needed was more quote-unquote world building, when the first series has it so much that the actual story has to take a back seat. The world building thing is to the detriment of this continuity. This series was absolutely not necessary. Second off, I see a lot of people saying that Galaxies is better than the Transformers comic. It might be a little bit more focused than the Transformers comic by the nature of the fact that it's focusing on a few characters. But besides that, I think a lot of it's, at least for this arc, is actually worse than the main Transformers series. And I actually read these issues a long time ago. I've just been procrastinating on doing this video just because I really don't have much to say about it. There are times where the story is too vague to give openings for your interpretation of the lore, while also being too specific, giving us information we don't need to know. The Enigma of Combination is introduced into the continuity. Please don't show me the Enigma of Combination ever again. I still have PTSD over the Combiner Wars. And out of all the different Combiner origins, the Enigma of Combination is the most boring way to introduce Combiners. You could have science, you could have something like the original IDW universe where Combiners was sort of like a weapon of mass destruction analogy, where both sides were working on them trying to reach it first. And the moment they do get Combiner technology, it's a big deal. But with Enigma of Combination, it's like, oh, magic, and then bam, you have a Combiner. Also, it's tied into the 13, and we already have so much going on in the timeline of this continuity that I don't really want to see us try to fit in the 13 in it as well. It's funny that the moment the Shroud happens and we don't have to worry about the 13 and people can introduce new origins for the Transformers and new Transformers history, every single continuity touches up on their version of the 13 more than any other Transformers continuity ever did when the Shroud hadn't happened yet. And it's like the 13 are cool because they're multiversal singularities, but now that they aren't, it's just oh, a bunch of old Transformers. Ooh. We've never seen that before. Some people have said that this series gives the Constructicons actual personalities, and I think it tries to, by giving them different ways of talking. But when you're trying to stress the different personalities of the Constructicons and how they're individual characters, you need them to look visually distinct from each other. All of them look the same. I couldn't tell the difference between them on a read-through of it, a normal read-through, where I wasn't specifically looking to see who's who. Livio Ramondelli's artwork I really like. The only time I don't like his artwork is really when he's involved in a lot of characters that look similar with each other, because then I just lose track of who's who. This 4-issue arc deals with the Insecticons and the Constructicons front and center, which means this is not where Ramondelli's art is meant to shine. He can do good Devastator art, I will say, great Devastator art, but trying to tell a visual story that focuses on individualizing the Constructicons, not the right artist to choose for that project, I don't think. I've seen some people say, oh, I like how it explores the psychology of being a combiner and what it's like to be in a combiner. To which I say we've seen it done 1,000 times already, most notably in the IDW first continuity. It was sort of the main point of the Combiner Wars arc, to get some characters into that sphere of the Combiner mindset and how that works. We've seen all the facets of what it means to be a Combiner psychology and emotionally speaking. We've seen it done before. This 4-issue arc does not tread any new territory with that. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there, but I hate calling Shrapnel Scrapnel. I don't know if it's a copyright issue or not. I hope it's a copyright issue, because if they said, oh, I'm just going to change Shrapnel to Scrapnel just on a whim, that's bad. Now, Devastator is sort of presented as the underdog, which is interesting considering he's a combiner, a massive weapon, which I'm conflicted about whether I like that or not, as, you know, a combiner being the underdog. That's something we've never seen before, but it's also hard to take seriously, I think. So I have mixed feelings on that. Now, one of my questions I have is, part of the reason people like combiners is because, oh wow, they're so much more powerful than normal Transformers. They're really powerful boys. They can turn the tide of the battle. But my question is, do the combiners really matter in this IDW universe when right off the back there are Titans flying around? Because usually the progression goes, first you get your combiners, and then you introduce the Titans, and then they're the big boys in town, until eventually you get like Unicron. But we went straight off with Titans in issue number 1, and now we're like, but by the way, you know Titans, you know these massive city-sized Transformers, but what if I told you that 5 guys could stand on top of each other? Ooh, really terrifies you. I don't think there's nothing really of story value that, or even in-universe strategic value that combiners add to the table when Titans are just a part of everyday life in this continuity. Also, this 4-issue arc is extremely dialogue heavy. Despite it spending a lot of time not doing anything, I think if 4 issues was too long, I think the story could have been told in 3 issues, maybe even 2 issues. But that might be pushing it. If 2 issues, it might feel a bit rushed, but maybe 3 issues, it could do what it needs to do. 4 issues was too long. And yet it's jam-packed with a lot of dialogue that doesn't really go anywhere. Or they reiterate the same point over and over. I will say, even though I don't really like the current Transformers series, I am able to reread it sometimes just to get a review of like what we just went through so I can get ready for the next issue. I cannot see myself rereading this Constructicon arc unless it's like years down the line and I'm like, I'm going to do a reread of the entire IDW 2 universe. And then as a completionist, I have to push through it. I did not enjoy reading this book at all. But that's going to wrap up this review about the first Constructicons Rising arc in Transformers Galaxies. Why is everything so much pain? If you think Radix, you are too negative in these comic reviews, I'd consider checking out my one video where I do say one of the issues is good. Also, my G.I. Joe and Dire Wraiths reviews, because those are comics that I actually like. But that's going to wrap up this review for today. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to this channel if you want more nerdy content. Follow me on social media if you want to join the community. And consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to see this channel continue. And again, thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Huge thanks to our patrons, including this month's $10 plus patron Josh Adkins. Check out the description for more patrons and more info about how you can receive a shout out here.